2012, I was introduced and met a really good friend of mine. Her name is Pat. I'm a pastor at Passion Community Church, and she came to visit our church. While she was there, she just seemed to love the environment that we were there at the church, loved being there. And as we normally do, my wife and I decided to take Pat to lunch. As we took her to lunch, we began to hear a story that totally moved me and also would change my ministry. And it's just a wonderful testimony how good God is. While we were sitting at lunch, Pat proceeded to tell us that she has a brain tumor in the back of her brain on her brain stem, and doctors had told her that she had 6 months to live. Now, I will tell you that after that 6-month death sentence that she received from the doctors, it had been roughly about 3 to 4 weeks when she had been attending the church and when we had a chance to go to lunch with her. At lunchtime, I asked her, as she's sharing this story with me, I'm totally amazed that here I am, had no clue that this was going on in her life. As she shares this story, I said, we need to get the church to pray for you. And her first request was not to tell anyone what had happened, because she didn't want people to treat her differently. She wanted people to treat her the same, and she didn't want to be considered special or something else. And so I just began to pray for her, and my wife and I prayed for her at lunchtime, and then she would attend our home group, and we would pray for her at home group, and not mentioning anything that was going on, just praying for a sickness or that the Lord would heal her. It was roughly about a month and a half after we first met Pat that she proceeded to open up to everyone at our home group. And Pat began to tell us the story at home group that she had told my wife and I. And as we sat in our living room floor, she started opening up, crying and weeping to everyone there that she had roughly about 4 to 4.5 months left to live in her life, because the Lord had, because she had suffered through this brain tumor. And at that time, our home group surrounded her and began to pray. And what else do you do when someone tells you that they're dying of a brainstem tumor? There's not much you can do. And so we just surrounded her and began to pray and lift her up in prayer, asking the Lord to bless her and to heal her. Long story, and I'm going to fast forward just a little bit until the day, roughly 6 months after she received the death sentence of this brainstem tumor. She was attending a doctor's appointment. I decided to go with her. As we went to her first doctor, the doctor put her through the regular CAT scans and MRIs that she would have. And as she went through these MRIs and these CAT scans, the doctor came into the waiting room where we were waiting for the results to come back. And the doctor was as white as ghost when he came in. And he looked at her and he goes, I'm not going to tell you what I just saw, but I'm going to send you to the Cleveland Clinic to have additional tests done. And then when you get these tests completed, we will converse with that doctor and we'll tell you what we're seeing. And so we, unbeknownst to us what was going on, we took the trip up to Cleveland, went in to see a specialist. I was with her during this time. She has this test done, this MRI and this CAT scan, and the doctor comes in afterwards and says, flat out looks at Pat and says, why are you here? And she said, I have a brainstem tumor that I was given 6 months ago. It said that I would only last 6 months. This is the time that I was told that I was going to die. And the doctor looks at her and he says, point blank, you're lying to me. And she said, I'm not lying to you. Here's my family doctor. Here's a doctor I have been seeing in Akron. And so he proceeds to call this other doctor, and they have this conversation on the phone. And as we're sitting in his office, hearing this conversation, the doctor in Akron is telling the doctor in Cleveland that she has this brainstem tumor and what is going on. And the doctor in Cleveland looks at Pat and says, I don't know what to tell you other than you don't have a brainstem tumor. See, the thing that I didn't know, and the thing that the doctors have told us, is that a brainstem tumor can increase and decrease in size. But when it decreases in size, what happens is that it leaves a kernel. And that kernel is always visible in CAT scans or MRIs and those types of things. Pat didn't even have the kernel there. And so I will tell you that we left that doctor's appointment praising God that it was going to be just a wonderful experience, that she has experienced a miracle. And I'm happy to say, even now in 2020, that Pat is completely healed and still lives a wonderful life and is just a wonderful woman that has never had any other symptoms of that brainstem tumor. God does answer your prayers, even the ones that seem unapproachable or impossible.